Hey, good people, thanks for joining me today. I hope that you are enjoying all of the flavors and scents and sights and feelings that the season has to offer. We have kicked off the fall with several fall focused videos, and the focus of today's conversation is going to be some of my favorite warm, spicy fragrances that remind me of fall. Of course, the challenge here is separating the true sort of winter or Christmassy or deep into the holidays type of spicy fragrances with the ones I'm going to share with you today. So, as I sometimes do, I will have additional recommendations down in the pinned comment for you to check out beyond what I share in this video. I think I have 10 and an honorable mention. Let's jump right in. I want to start off with one that I wanted to include in this category, although maybe it is not quite the warm, spicy bomb that some of the others are that I will mention. And this is from, I believe, a Greek perfumer. It says Athens on the label. Manos, Gerakinis. And the fragrance is called Immortelle. This one, I'm starting off with this because I think this is maybe the least feminine of the group. It's the most sort of unisex because it's got a little bit of a touch of a dry sort of herbal note in here. But the reason that I do have it here is because of the addition of cinnamon. And I don't know if there's nutmeg in the fragrance, but I pick up something in the neighborhood of like a nutmeg type of note, and maybe even something like in the hazelnut direction. Again, that is not a note that is listed. This does have a powdery, soft, almost like milkiness to it, but I like that there's this sort of subtle spiciness like you might get on top of gingerbread cookies or other kinds of holiday or fall cookies that have just the lightest sprinkling of those sort of kitchen spices like cinnamon and nutmeg and other types of notes. I like that about this. It has a cookie-esque nature, but it doesn't get too much in the gourmand territory because it stays a little bit on the drier side. And like I said, it has a little bit of an herbal touch that's kind of unexpected for a fragrance like this. So it's an interesting juxtaposition of gourmand touches and maybe something that leans a little tiny bit in the fougere direction. But it is delightful and it is warm on the skin. It is soft wearing, although it has great longevity, a little bit of milkiness as well. And I like it. I think this is a really interesting fragrance that I think is worth trying out. Immortelle. Next on the list is a super fun fragrance. It looks like I haven't used this. I did use it several times last season, but it's strong and you only need a couple of sprays. And this is Mancera's Tonka Cola. I have a little bottle here and that's probably all I'm going to need. A fragrance that has a really punchy cinnamon note in it. And here's what makes it punchy to me. So people have talked about this smelling like Coca-Cola. Yes, like if you take a can of Coca-Cola, pour it into a glass, drop a lot of cinnamon in it, a couple of dashes of like maybe lemon juice, drop a hint of cherry syrup in it, and some vanilla touches. Okay, let me back up. Imagine if you had like a Coca-Cola that was either vanilla based or cherry based, either one, and you add the other in with the cinnamon, with some lemon drops. There you go. It's a really sort of happy, bright, fun fragrance. This fragrance makes me smile when I sniff it. It's definitely cinnamon forward. So if you are not a cinnamon lover, this is absolutely one to skip. Like I think the cinnamon that's in Immortelle is almost like baked, like what you get in a baked good. And so it's part of the composition. Whereas this one, it's almost like the star of the show, not quite in an obnoxious way. Sometimes cinnamon and fragrances can be overbearing. I don't find it to be that way in here, my own opinion, because it's tempered by those other notes. Vanilla, a little cherry, there's tonka bean in the fragrance that adds like this almost like powdery vanillic nature to it as well. And then there's that lemon that gives it this just fun brightness that is great as you transition away from summer into fall, although this is one that will take you deep into the winter time as well. So you have to like a quirky type of scent. This isn't a sort of typical scent profile, and one that if you are newer to fragrances might surprise you a little bit. But for those of you that have been around for a long time and you have tried hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of fragrances, and you're looking for something new, a little novel, a little kitschy, and definitely fun, give Tonka Cola a sniff. As always, I will have everything linked down in the description box if you'd like to shop through there. And there are scent decant places that I have linked down there as well if you just want to try some fragrances. I do have 2 Xerjoff fragrances to recommend. I didn't realize I put 2 Xerjoff fragrances in here. Forgive me. The first is Starlight, and it's one that I had trouble deciding if I wanted to save for maybe a Christmas scents video because it could easily be in there as well. There are 2 main spicy notes in here that I think one is stronger than the other in the fragrance. The other kind of balances it out, and it's cardamom and cinnamon. The cinnamon here is very different than the cinnamon in Tonka Cola. It's a lot more prominent and maybe in your face here than it is here. It's more like the cinnamon that shows up in Immortelle, where it's softer, a little bit more delicate, and like a drier type of cinnamon. And the other key spice player in here is cardamom. That's what the fragrance is known most for. And again, both together are like in the dry form. I wouldn't say as though it were mixed into anything that was a more sort of wet baking mixture or a more luscious kind of desserty type of thing. They're very sort of dry spices together in here for me. There's an amber base to the fragrance. And the other key note is almond. As it dries down, I get more of an amber almond combination with the cinnamon and the cardamom then being accompanying players to those. In the opening, the two spices are the most prominent for me. All together, those four notes sort of dance along in this fragrance for quite a while. It gets to be a softer fragrance as you wear during the day, but it's fairly long lasting. And it's delightful. A lot of people say that this reminds them of Christmas, and I can see that. It almost has like this orangey background tone to it, and I don't know what in the composition would give it that. Maybe there are some citrusy touches here that give you the impression of something in the orange neighborhood. So if you think about Christmas and having those sort of garlands that have dried oranges and spices and apples and that kind of a thing, there's a little bit of that in the background here. But those dry spices and that amber and that almond accord for me are very prominent here. I think this is delightful. This is interesting. You have to like spicy fragrances. There aren't any florals or other sort of soft feminine touches, although it comes across as a feminine fragrance to me. Really, really delightful. Get your nose on this for sure. Starlight. Another fragrance from Xerjoff that I associate most with fall, although I think it's a year-round fragrance. I've talked about this a lot lately because it is a true love for me. This is Dolce Amalfi. I think this got best bottle in the fragrance awards for September. I just filmed that a little bit earlier, and because I love the sort of, you can't see it here, the ring light is shining through it and it's super duper. I'm turning it around as though you can see the brightness on the other side. It's super duper like sunny. Like when this lights up as a bottle, it's so pretty and bright. Anyway, I love it. This sort of honey / orange / mustard type of tone. The fragrance itself has, for me, my favorite clove note in any perfume that I have anywhere in my collection. It's such a happy fragrance. It reminds me of Juicy Fruit Gum. Juicy Fruit Gum, I have lots and lots of great memories about it. My mom used to chew it back in the day. She's not a gum chewer anymore, so I associate that smell with my mom when I was little. So clove is in the fragrance. I think there's cinnamon and nutmeg as well. There's quince and apple and these beautiful sort of resinous ambery tones that are just delightful and fun and warm and fresh and happy. There's sweetness, there's fall tones, there's, I don't know, it's just like a big juicy fruit gum hug in a bottle with the beauty from the clove notes that lend some spiciness here. I think there's cardamom in this fragrance as well. Just so good, so good. Beautiful fall, spicy, fresh, fruity, warm, ambery fragrance that just does no wrong in my book. Super projecting, super long lasting, very beast mode. And you can get this on pretty good discount now on discount sites. So I'll be sure to find you some links below. This next one has a lot of cinnamon in it as well. I guess cinnamon is a feature for some of the ones that I've spoken about so far. We are going to get into some other spices here soon, I promise. And this is from the House of Oud Dates Delight in this gorgeous bottle. You'll remember that So Avant-Garde sent me a bunch of House of Oud fragrances when we did the sale together this fall. And I'm so glad that they did because it has allowed me to explore fragrances that I would have otherwise ignored, including this one. So it's called Dates Delight, and it does have a prominent, sticky, sweet date note that is at the top and in the middle of the fragrance. And it's equally accompanied by some beautiful florals and this very just happy, happy cinnamon note that I think lends this sort of sexiness and mystery and intrigue to the fragrance rather than making it seem like a fall spicy fragrance. However, the reason that I have it here is the combination of all of that gives this warm sophistication that I think does really well in cooler weather. Other notes that I want to call out here, tonka bean and caramel, which together lend this beautiful sort of vanillic powderiness to the fragrance. There's a nice level of a sophisticated, soft, elegant oud in the base. And there's an icing sugar accord. Isn't that lovely? So it's floral, it's sweet, it's sticky sweet, like fruity, sticky, deep sweet, a little bit resinous feeling. And then it has that nice sophisticated oud in the base with this sort of overarching wraparound cinnamon experience that to me makes it a nice fall, fruity, spicy fragrance with those touches of florals and other sweet notes and everything. It's really, really lovely. Dates Delight. The next fragrance moves in a completely different direction than most of your typical fall spicy fragrances or even winter spicy fragrances, but it deserves a place at the table for both. And I really enjoy it. I find it a little bit unique in comparison to the others. This is from Noem and it is called Kalahari. The key players that are spicy in here are cardamom combined with a saffron note, which gives it this nice, almost like leathery airiness, not airness, airiness that I really enjoy and I think makes it unique. This also has a base of this sort of light, wispy muskiness, along with a delicate sort of linear woodiness, like a clean smelling woodiness. The combination of all of that together makes this a little bit of a mysterious fragrance to wear, absolutely unisex, maybe with a little toe dipping over into masculine territory. I just think it's super sexy. It's alluring, it's sophisticated, it's airy, and it also has like this grounding, almost like carnal, earthy nature from tones of that musky, leathery, woody base to it. So delightful. The cardamom lends just this level of dry spice to this that I really enjoy. The saffron has that beautiful light airiness that saffron can have, that sort of aromatic touch that just sort of fills a room. Oh, so good. So good, this fragrance is. There's nothing really feminine about the fragrance. I wouldn't call it masculine. I would call it, like I said, mostly unisex with a little toe dipping over into masculine territory. Nice, dry, sophisticated, mysterious, and beautiful. Kalahari. If you try nothing else from my recommendations, please be sure to get your nose on this next one, and that is from Nishan Ani X, which I prefer to the original Ani, which is also beautiful. I've talked about how the original one has a little bit of a harsher opening for me. It smells like spices and bleach together in the opening there. That's like, woo, a little bit overpowering for the original. And it's not until the dry down that I really enjoy the vanillic, spicy nature of regular Ani. This one is more tolerable right out of the gate. Rounder, softer, like a more voluptuous vanillic spicy fragrance. And I don't get any of that sort of Cloroxy tone that I get in the original. So I want to be sure to read you some of the notes because there's a lot happening in this fragrance in terms of the spices. At the top, cardamom and ginger and pink pepper, accompanied by some beautiful citrus and slightly fruity notes, but I get more citrus than anything else. Lemon and bergamot, but really sort of softly done, almost like a sugared lemon at the top, along with those zingy, spicy notes, the ginger and the pepper and the cardamom. In the middle, what stands out to me, I'm just going to actually skip the middle and go to the base because I really don't pick up a lot of the middle notes. Maybe there's a little bit of green apple in there, perhaps, but it's the base notes that really stand out to me, which are this deep, beautiful, really thick vanilla and sandalwood that come across to me in a little bit of muskiness. This is such a delightful composition, really sort of elegant and spicy, not quite as like overtly spicy as, say, your Tonka Cola. This is like a perfumey spicy that just works really well. It's luscious, it's opulent, it's elegant, it's very sort of refined in my mind. And I really enjoy it. I can't recommend this one enough. If you wanted to like the regular Ani X, but you just weren't sure about it, give this one a spin and see if this doesn't scratch the itch that you were looking for with Ani. Beautiful, deep, luscious vanilla, that sandalwood, like I said, with the beautiful citrus and kitchen spicy tones at the top, a little bit of zing to it that's just beautiful altogether. The next one is one that I tried a decant of and liked, but wondered if it might be a little bit masculine leaning for me. I took a chance during a sale and purchased this. Actually, I think I purchased this in that So Avant-Garde sale that I did with them and got the 30% off of Black One from Widian. Oh my God. This is one of the sexiest, most come hither, captivating, compelling, capture a room types of fragrances. And so the spices that are here are cardamom and cinnamon. They show up very different than they do in any of the fragrances that I've talked about so far because they are equally accompanied by this gorgeous, almost clean smelling cypress and cedar together. It is beautiful the way that those woody notes play against the cinnamon and the cardamom to give you this super, it's like almost like a hyper clean smell without smelling like aldehydes. It's kind of hard to describe. It's almost like a spa oil cleanliness kind of vibe to it with the spices added in. And I also want to share there's a little touch of incense and there's sandalwood and musk in the fragrance as well. But what stands out for me is those clean woody aspects of the fragrance alongside the lovely spices. Ooh, ooh. This is one that if I smelled it on someone else walking by, I would probably get whiplash trying to follow them to ask what they were smelling. A unique fragrance, as are many of the fragrances from Widian. I can't say that I've tried any of them and thought this smells like fill in the blank. They all have their own unique flavor. So if you're a person that is chasing a unique signature scent and you don't mind a unisex fragrance, this is a beauty to add to your collection. I have a review of Widian fragrances, not all, but many from the house that I will link in the description box for you. Absolutely worth checking out. I have amassed a small collection of them. They are super expensive and I have no regrets. I would pay every penny for each of them. Do I love every single one of them? No, there are some that I'm still like, I like you, but what's happening with you? But they're all super high quality fragrances, and there are a bunch of loves among the collection. And this is the newest one, Black One. Amazeballs, amazeballs. Another super sexy fragrance that I think is a lot more familiar than Black One, has similar vibes, but it's not the same. They're different. And one that has stood the test of time in my collection. Like every time I go to declutter my collection, I'm like, are you up for declutter? And it looks me in the eye and it's like, mm-mm. You know what I can do and you're going to keep me around. And I'm like, yeah, let me stop. Don't play with you. I'm not going to play with you. This is Tom Ford's Noir Extreme. I have a big bottle that I purchased at the cosmetics company store. I think I got this big bottle and a travel spray for $90 a long time ago, which was a steal. There's a lot happening in this fragrance. I want to share some of the notes from the pyramid. At the top, cardamom, nutmeg, and saffron. There's also citrus in the fragrance that I think just lends this beautiful soft brightness to it. In the middle, you get florals and a kulfi note, which is a dessert type of note. And then the base is vanilla, amber, and sandalwood, and other woody tones. But I love the combination of notes in the base. This is dark and deep. It gives you a lot of what the bottle looks like. So think of a nighttime, spicy, super sexy, elegant fragrance. This could be a night on the town fragrance. The spicy notes in here are very prominent alongside some of that floral and citrusy aspect, but the vanilla and the sandalwood in the base along with the amber give it this beautiful, sophisticated depth that lingers and lingers and lingers. This is a fairly long-lasting fragrance and can be pretty loud when you first spray it on, so just be careful about that. I would definitely say this is a nighttime fragrance for the most part, although I mean you can wear anything, anytime, of course, but I associate this with a nighttime date night fragrance. I will say as the fragrance settles down, a rose note comes out to play a little bit more, but it definitely retains the beautiful spiciness that's tempered by that vanilla, amber, woody base and gives you just elegant evening, cold weather sophistication. Tom Ford Noir Extreme. I don't really hear a lot of people talking about this fragrance. I'm not sure if that's because people just don't like it or it's fallen out of favor or it's not what people are looking for or whatever, but it's definitely worth checking out. I think a classic for the fall warm spicy category is Lune Feline from Atelier des Ors. One that may show up in my Halloween video. I've got a little Halloween lineup just for your entertainment purposes coming up at the end of October. Love the name of the fragrance and love the spiciness of it and the fact that it sits on a vanilla base. In fact, it could probably be a sort of sultrier, more mischievous cousin to Ani X, whereas this one comes across more sophisticated, refined, warm, enveloping, cocooning. This one is a little bit more mischievous feeling. So the primary spices that are in here are cinnamon and cardamom and pink pepper. So it has a little bit of the same kind of spiciness that Starlight has in terms of the spicy aspects of it. And the departure here is that this is very vanilla heavy in the base. And there are some woody and other notes that combine here for me to give this almost like this slightly smoky impression. It's not a smoky fragrance, but it sort of tricks your mind into thinking you're smelling something a little tiny bit incensey or maybe even slightly smoky. Really, really faint. Nothing pronounced to me. I would say this fragrance is primarily spicy vanilla with woody tones to it. And, you know, it's another one of these fragrances that reminds me very much of an evening wear sort of deal. This one, the Noir Extreme, is deeper and more ambery. It's just got more junk in its trunk than this one does. This one is sort of peeking out from behind a dark corner at night going, psst, you know you want to get into some trouble with me, Lune Feline. I'll end this video with an honorable mention that I don't really associate with warm and spicy for fall, but it has some nice spiciness to it. And so I think it deserves a mention because there are other aspects of it that I think play nicely in the fall. This is from Nuit Nomade, and this is called Jardins de Misfah. This is a fragrance that when I first tried it, I thought this is all right, and I don't understand what all the hype is about. But as I always say, it's important to actually douse yourself in the fragrance and experience it for the day from a full bottle to really understand it. And that is when I came to get why people rave about this fragrance. It is so sweet and comforting and girly. The notes in here I want to share the primary spicy notes: cardamom, nutmeg, and then there's saffron in the fragrance. And what gives it, so that's the spicy aspect of it, and what gives it the fall nature, in addition to having some of that spiciness, is the combination of dates. So we have dates in Dates Delight. Here they show up for me in a much more perfumey way. Here you get more of the sticky dates in Dates Delight. It's not quite so sticky, icky, like, feeling like it's bordering on syrupy territory a little bit like it is in Dates Delight. Here it's a little bit lighter in terms of the texture that the dates lend to this. And it's accompanied by this really soft, almost sugary rose that I think just makes this beautiful and girly. And then there's almond that lends this sort of softness to the background of this fragrance. So think spices, the sweetness from dates, the soft, delicate girliness from the rose, and that sort of comforting coziness from the almond. And you might have a sense of how this fragrance wears. Fairly long lasting. When I first tried this out, I didn't think it lasted long, but this does give you a decent day's wear. And it's just so delightful and so pretty and just kind of perfection in a bottle in its own sort of subtle, spicy and feminine floral and almondy way. Jardins de Misfah, my honorable mention. So like I said, I will have these all linked below if you'd like to check them out or try some decants of them. And I will have other recommendations in the pinned comment also. And if you have other fall, warm, spicy fragrances that you think deserve a mention, please put those down in the comments. We love to learn about new fragrances that we haven't tried or be reminded of ones that we have tried and forgotten about. Thanks so much. Hope you are smelling fantastic this fall. Appreciate you hanging out. See you in the next video.